So I read 9 books in May, and I want to just talk about a little about each one. Some really good ones, some not so great ones. So let's get started. The first book I read was The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda. So I've heard such good things about her. I've never read her. I have a few of her books, but this is the first book of hers I've ever read. And I did it for a book club. It wasn't my favorite. I felt like there were lots of loose ends at the end that just frustrated me. She seemed like she threw a lot of characters in this book that clearly were like red herrings, but never tied up the ends on any of them. So I was very frustrated with the end. I was like, what else? Like, what? So would I try another one of her books? Maybe. I hope they're better than this one. I was not impressed. I love thrillers, and this was just not it. I then read On Wings of Blood, and I was obsessed. Now, Kaylee and Mackenzie will tell you otherwise. They were not super big fans, and if you want to know why, check out our podcast. We just dropped an episode this week all about that. But I loved it. I thought it had a lot of fantastic action. I was always excited to see what was going to happen next. I loved the Dark Academia. I loved the dragons. I loved the vampires. I loved the magic system. I liked all of it. I thought it was great. It was heavy. There were a couple moments that I was like a little disturbed by what was happening, but I feel like for the context and the plot, it made sense. So I'm excited to read the second book and the third book that's coming out in a couple weeks. I've heard mixed reviews on that, but also Book Talk is obsessed with it right now. So if you like those tropes, I would check it out because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I then read Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams, and I am slowly growing to be a Sarah Adams fanatic. Started with When in Rome, hated it. And then I read Practice Makes Perfect, which is the second book in this series. And then I read this one, and I've read 2 since then. Loving them. Absolutely loving them. They are fun. They are not spicy. They are sweet. They are cute. Kind of Hallmarky, but not cheesy. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is about 2 teachers. So if you are a teacher, you will love it. And they are enemies to lovers. And it's just adorable. And I will forever read every single one of Sarah Adams's books. And I probably will finish all of her books by the end of the year. So check this one out for sure. Babylonia. So this was a TBR pull from our podcast. Mackenzie had put it in my TBR jar because she knows I like historical fiction. I didn't love this one. It was interesting because I'd never heard about Semiramis, who is the Assyrian princess in this book, who comes from being a peasant. She works her way up to be the only Assyrian, like, royalty, I guess, in that empire. I just didn't like it. I found it kind of boring. I enjoyed the historical aspect of it, but there was almost nothing else that I enjoyed about this book. So, it wasn't my favorite. I then read The Tenant, and I did a book review on this on TikTok. So if you want to see that, check it out. It's also on our YouTube page, but I liked it. This was not her best. This did not feel like a huge thriller until about 2/3 of the way through when there's a little bit of a twist, but it was just fine. Not her best. It is enjoyable. If you want a very quick, easy read, it's a great one. It just wasn't the best of hers. I then read Silver Elite. Now, I wanted to read this, but I also wanted to be able to read this so I could review it. And so there is a review on our page. I loved it. Now, with that being said, it is not what they say it is. It is not a Hunger Games for adults. It is definitely adult. It is kind of dystopian, but it is not Hunger Games-esque at all. Like, Hunger Games is here. This is like here. I still 5-starred it. I still loved it. There is no games and trials. They're in a military school, kind of like Fourth Wing, I guess. And it was good. It feels like a reverse Powerless. She has powers. Those people are getting offed for having powers. And she has to figure out how to live in a society where she has to like mute her powers. So I loved it. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's fantastic. So I think it's a great one. Assistant to the Villain. I audiobooked this and it was cute. This feels like a Butcher and Blackbird meets like Spell Shop. So it's like cutesy fantasy with some type behavior. And it was cute. I think I would have liked it better reading it. I have a really hard time understanding deeper books when they're audiobook. I need to just like passively listen. So that could be on me. It was cute. And I would recommend it to people who like the like chill type fantasy that's not like high fantasy, but it wasn't my favorite. Would I read the second book? Maybe, if it ever came available, like I might, but I'm not like, I have to read it. I read Nova after that. Nova is the second book in the Renegade series by Rebecca Yarros. I'm obsessed with Wilder. That is one of my favorite books of the whole year so far. Nova was fine. It didn't do it for me. I would suggest it because I think the series as a whole is fantastic. I just wasn't a huge fan of the MMC. He was fine, but like Paxton Wilder is like here, Landon's like there-ish. Like he was just fine. I felt like it was very like second chance, but the whole book was like, I want you, I want you, I want you. And it was just, I don't know. It was fine. It just wasn't my favorite. And last but not least, I read The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. Again, I love Sarah Adams. However, this was not my favorite. I had never read a pregnancy trope before until this book, and I'm not a fan. So that is nothing on Sarah Adams. I just didn't like the trope. Just not my thing. It's just not my thing. I thought a lot of it was just very cringe and not my favorite. However, there were some hilarious parts in the book. And so if you don't mind the pregnancy trope, absolutely read it. Because I thought it was adorable outside of the parts where I was like, ooh, not my thing. I don't like that. So very cute, just not my trope. So if you like that trope, read it. I thought it was great. So May was good. Some good, some not so good. But hopefully June is really good and I can get more reading in.